All right, everybody, welcome in. Jacked up September 10th, 2024, the NFL season, week 1 underway. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the lone team in the AFC North to be 1-0 after week 1. The Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens all lose, but the Steelers behind 6 Chris Boswell field goals and a stout defensive effort, an 18-10 winner over the Atlanta Falcons. Also, a big couple of days for the University of Pittsburgh ahead of its biggest game, the Backyard Brawl, Saturday at 3:30 at Acrisure Stadium. Pitt Athletic Director Heather Lyke relieved of her duties Monday morning. The guy on the story to break it, Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, was all over it, and he joins us now on the latest edition of Jacked Up. Chris, you cover the Steelers for the Locked On Steelers podcast. You do a great job. Pitt for the Post-Gazette. I want to start with Pitt and with Heather Lyke, since you were on the story yesterday. Kudos to you, of course, my friend, on getting everything accurate and on a timely manner. It seemed like a lot of Pitt fans were stunned by this move, but as more information became available and people got to talking, was the writing almost on the wall for this? And was this kind of something that people should have maybe seen coming a little bit more in advance?
I think that it became a bit louder when her name was announced as a finalist for Northwestern's athletic director job. And then shortly after that, there was a report that went out that she had accepted that once she was not the athletic director for Northwestern, that she was going to sign. She had signed an extension to be Pitt's athletic director, and then that turned into she's going to sign. And I immediately was trying to figure out like where that was coming from, because I was monitoring that situation very closely. And that's what I basically was told, that that's not the case from multiple sources. I tweeted that, didn't put a whole lot more out there. But then basically, I've been monitoring the situation. Obviously we knew the things that we do know. And this is what I think is really important with reporting. If you're being responsible, if you're being a reporter, if you're being, a journalist, you're reporting what you can report. You're sticking to the facts. You're sticking to what you can prove and what you can back up. And I think sometimes in the world of the internet, things move so fast, people get ramped up, things happen. That's there, but that's something that I worked very hard to not let happen, Jack. And basically, I got noticed. A little bit before the announcement got out, and I was very much not sure which direction it was going to officially go, but I did know that when you have it out that she's a finalist for Northwestern, and then that announcement goes out, she's not getting that, and the longer amount of time between that and you announce that she has signed an extension with Pitt officially, that the longer that window increased, the bigger the questions got. What's going on here? Is she going to be back with Pitt? And right. Eventually I got the information. We put it out there. And let's also be plain here. I didn't put out a whole lot of stuff. Like, my whole thing here was, we know this and we know that. We know her resume. We know the statement from Joan Gable. We now have a statement from Heather Lyke. And we're working on things. And listen, I hear a lot of things. That's what we're, as reporters, and how this, you got family in the business. You know how it is. We all hear lots of things. But are those things true? That's what we work hard to prove. That's what we work hard to put together. That's what I'm still working on right now. But yeah. So I mean, and it was a rush that it happened so quickly. And listen, I think Pitt fans have every reason to be surprised by this. Under Heather Lyke, Pitt basketball's been resurrected by Jeff Capel, her hire. They've won multiple tournament games. They should have been back in the tournament this year.
Right? Her first hire was Capel.
Technically, her first hire was women's soccer, Randy Waldron.
Okay.
But Capel was shortly after. But Capel is her crowning hire. I think there's no doubt about that. Jeff Capel's resurrected Pitt basketball. Women's soccer is made it to the Sweet 16. Men's soccer, Sweet 16, I forget which one of those made it to the Elite Eight, but one of them did. Pitt volleyball, who Dan Fisher, she didn't hire, but she did extend, has been to 3 straight Final Fours. They're a national powerhouse. Literally today, the day of Heather being let go, they are number 1 in the country. And you look at that, you look at Pitt football, they've got an ACC championship, they've got a Sun Bowl, 20 wins in the last 2 years. And yes, the 2 years before their 3-9 season. And yes, 3-9 is a blemish on that. But you look at that, there's a lot of athletic department success for people to boast about if you're Pitt fans. So naturally, I get why people are going to be surprised by this. But I think once that story went up about Northwestern, that was the beige flag. And then when she didn't get it and there wasn't an announcement shortly after that, that was a yellow flag. And now we are.
And then the flag turned red and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
You know, Pat Gallagher, former chancellor of the university, hired her. And then Joan Gable takes office, sometime in the summer of 2023.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not asking you to like theorize or anything, but like common sense, I feel like would prove that, hey, you know, this wasn't her original boss. So there might have been some differences in thought, differences in what direction the athletic department would go. And that happens when you get a new boss, and no matter what field you're in. So I guess, and Joan Gable said this in her statement, she's got a different vision for where this athletic department at the University of Pittsburgh needs to be in the ever-changing world of college athletics. So I guess the question I'll ask you is, what do you think the number one thing, or maybe a couple of the top things that Joan Gable and the board are going to look for in a new AD?
Well, I'll say this as just basing it off of what we have, and what we do have is her statement. And she talked about the new world of college athletics, right? So what's the new world of college athletics? It's NIL. Yep. And to me, that's the big thing that you look at if you're looking at this situation. The Pitt needs somebody to lead them in that direction. And would that be Heather Lyke? Maybe it would have been. Maybe she could have been that person. But Joan Gable says they want to embrace the future, and they want someone that can be prepared to tackle that. I think that's enough of a sign to show you that's where this decision is probably coming from that department. But also, like, you look at you look at Heather's past success. A lot of it came, was built during the time before NIL, and some of it happened after NIL's become a thing. But I think a lot of it rests on foundations that were laid by her and this administration before NIL became a thing. So I don't think it's totally unreasonable for people to make those two ties when the chancellor releases a statement the way she did, and you look at the world of college sports. And also, I just think it's natural that at this stage of college athletics, I think there's gonna be a lot of turnover across the board. You have the house settlement right now, where all major Power 5 universities have to find $20 million or more to be paying players. There's new structures, all these changes. I think naturally there's a lot of people who have been in their athletic director positions that were used to the old college world, and you can either adapt or be moved on from. And that's not just those athletic directors, that's those departments entirely. If you don't adapt with the current world, you're going to get left behind. And so I think that that's the question that every university has to ask themselves. Do we feel our current people who have been here for X amount of years are tackling NIL the right way? If not, move on. And again, I'm not saying that Heather Lyke wasn't, but I am saying that if you read Joan Gable's statement, and you look at talking about the new college world, and the big thing that's changed about the college world is NIL, I think that's not an unreasonable connection to make.
One of the theories I had, and then we'll move on to a little bit about the brawl and then your takes on the Steelers. One of the thoughts that I had, the theories I had about this is, okay, Pitt hires a new athletic director in the next several months. I went back and looked at the time frame when Scott Barnes left to when Heather Lyke was hired. It was like 5 months. So I feel like you're looking at maybe a similar time frame, maybe shorter, maybe longer, who knows. But do you think maybe, and this has to do with football too, we've seen maybe bigger programs, a couple of them now, have general managers for their Division I football program. Do you think that could be maybe the next move if this new athletic director, whoever he or she is, comes in and says, hey, this is something that I think we can utilize? Do you think maybe that might be the next step for the Pitt football program, to have a GM? Because there are D1 programs out there right now that employ people to do that job.
I think when you look at the world of college sports, it's smart to do that. And I think that I don't know who they're going to hire. We did publish a short list of candidates that, have been brought up publicly and local administrators. But I do think that there's a chance that, that they do find someone like that, because if you're looking at athletic director, typically athletic directors, they're administrative people. They're used to the front office. They're used to managing a lot of things, setting schedules, making agreements. That's that old job of the athletic director is completely different from leading the charge to managing the funds of who's getting money in NIL. And that is a whole other job that you want. If you want someone to completely focus on that, you do need to carve something out. And we're seeing some programs do that. I think that it would be smart. It would behoove Pitt to do something like that on their end. But again, with this house settlement stuff, all athletic departments across the country are about to restructure in very serious ways. So I would not be shocked if Pitt is in that department, and that involves new positions as well that focus more on how to use NIL in their favor.
And perhaps poor timing, weird timing on the university's part to announce this before the biggest game on the schedule thus far. Pitt, West Virginia, the Backyard Brawl, the 107th time these two teams will meet. West Virginia's 1-1, Pitt's 2-0. Just your thoughts going into this game. Obviously, Pitt's got a lot to be riding high about after its comeback win on Saturday over Cincinnati. West Virginia gets into the win column. I think both of these programs are feeling good for different reasons. Pitt 2-0, come from behind win. West Virginia, the winner in that game, in this game a year ago. So where do you think the thought process is? What are your thoughts going into Saturday's Backyard Brawl?
I think Pitt's trying to stay focused on playing the way that they want to play, and that's fast and aggressive and open this game up. You saw at the end of the game when they opened the game up against Cincinnati. I truly think Eli Holstein, their starting quarterback for the Panthers, I think he took a step forward in the sense of he made a big in-game adjustment. He admitted early on, I was trying to throw the ball deep. I was trying to target guys. I was trying to look for the big play. And that's what Cincinnati was trying to take away. They were saying, hey, and Pat Narduzzi said this before the game, they're going to drop 8 into coverage, and the job is to figure out what are they trying to take away with the 8. Let's go to the one thing that they're not covering, or wait until something breaks down early on. And I think a lot of what Pitt has coached its offense to be is on schedule, in rhythm, make it, bing, bang, boom, make your decisions, make your throws, get it out fast. But when you're facing that many cover guys, there's a lot more things that can be taken away, especially early on in a play. And what Eli Holstein really did was he started to wait longer into plays, and he said, okay, we're going to let this move over here and let these receivers manipulate these defenders, and I'll find the open guy to make the safe throw. And then it allowed him to find more one-on-one matchups, and then they had to make certain decisions. And he said, okay, I'm not locking on to, Kanate Mumfield in the situation or Kenny Johnson in that situation. I'm going to I'm going to scan the fields, find my one-on-ones, and take the matchups that I like. And the fact that he did that on the road while down, not playing well in the first half, that says a lot for a guy's fortitude and his character. And that also, I think, puts a lot of support behind him with the team, because now the team knows no matter how far we're down, that guy can bring us back. And that kind of stuff, that builds energy on a football team. And if I'm West Virginia, I am trying to stymie that as fast as I can. I'm trying to create turnovers. And frankly, I have not been impressed by West Virginia's defense thus far this year. It's very early. They could change things around. But if they don't come out and set a tone with Pitt right away, hey, you actually should be worrying about that first half against Cincinnati. If Eli Holstein comes out and gets 2 touchdowns early on, I would not want to be the Mountaineers in a boat race with this team, because this Pitt team, I think, is designed to play that way. And their defense is also designed to play with it. And that's something else that I think is being undernoted here, Jack, is and I'm sorry, I'm talking a long time.
No, you're good.
But you look at the end of that Cincinnati game and how long the Pitt's defense was on the field. They weren't tired at the end. They were bringing it. They were forcing 3 and outs. They were on it. They were pressing, blitzing, doing all these things, playing fast. They are built to play long games with this offense. That's what they trained all spring and summer for. And if they could do that on the road in Cincinnati, I think they're going to be able to do that against this West Virginia team. And it's going to be a challenge to teams that don't normally play this way to keep up that stamina in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, West Virginia's got near a dozen guys on defense that were on different college rosters a year ago. That's something Pat Narduzzi said today in his press conference, and West Virginia is still trying to figure that out defensively. But you flip the matchup around. Pitt on Saturday gave up almost 150 yards to Corey Kiner, Cincinnati's running back. I think West Virginia's got two guys as good as Kiner, and Jaheim White and CJ Donaldson. I think Panther fans should be maybe a little bit concerned. I mean, obviously there's a whole week to make adjustments, but I think they should be concerned because based off of what West Virginia brings to the table running the football and, Pitt not being able to stop Cincinnati's running back a week ago.
I mean, certainly. I mean, and let's also be clear. Pitt's been struggling to stop West Virginia on the ground. I mean, you go back to CJ Anderson, 2 years ago when Pitt won, that was a problem. And you're absolutely right. Kiner did what he wanted to do. He did what he wanted to do to Pitt last year. The biggest difference was they took away the passing game that Cincinnati was relying on, and Pitt's offense was scoring at a fast enough rate to make things go. So Pitt's focus this week needs to be stopping the run. I'm not saying that Pitt's going to run away with this. I'm saying if West Virginia allows Pitt to get into a rhythm on offense, then it's going to force that West Virginia offense to be that much more consistent and to have to win with that run game and get into the end zone. The thing about last year's, Backyard Brawl, as you remember, Pitt's offense was abysmal. And even so, West Virginia didn't blow them out of the water. It wasn't a 30-point win. It was barely double digits. And so I look at that and I think, if their defense is lacking a lot of ways and Pitt's offense is playing like this, and I think Pitt's offense is legitimately a lot better than it was last year, West Virginia's offense is going to have to make up the difference there. And that's something that, I think we all need to see.
Yeah, and how encouraging is it? I watched both press conferences today, Neil Brown's and Pat Narduzzi's. Both of them shared equal respect for one another. Both of them talked about the opposition very highly. But at the beginning of it all, the whole theme of their respective spiels was, this is a rivalry game. We get super excited about this game, and we love being a part of this game. And in a changing geographic college football where these rivalries go away, like, how encouraging is it for you to see both programs just so damn excited about this football game being played year in and year out? Now, I know West Virginia's got a couple of scheduling conflicts and it'll go away for a few years, but how just exciting is it to cover, number one, because you'll be there, obviously I'll be there, and just to be a part of, because it's one of the best rivalries, I think, in college football.
It's historic. It's meaningful. It's powerful. It's exciting. The fans are into it. And I think there should be a concerted effort from both parties to make sure that this does maintain. The world of college sports is built on rivalries. You look at what made the SEC is made of rivalries. All those teams down there that they hate each other. And it's not just the games themselves. You go and you watch the cultures and how they clash. That's what makes these sports so amazing. That's what makes this arena so amazing, is when you see those things clash. And when you take it away, neither side benefits from that. And I think that you look at it and you say, like, do you want to be like Pitt and Penn State, where they kind of just throw snide remarks at each other and no one works together, and now you're missing out on this easy payday where both of you can be on national television playing each other and everyone's ramped up for it, even if Penn State's going to win 3 out of the 4 times you play? That, just the simple spectacle of you playing each other, that's going to bring eyes to the table, and it's going to bring people excitement. That's what Pitt and West Virginia are doing. It's just these programs need to get out of their own way and make this stuff happen, make rivalries a thing. And I also think it would behoove conferences to encourage more of the rivalries, try to push more of these things. There's so much conference realignment right now. And if I'm the Big 12 and the ACC, I'm looking at the Big 10, I'm looking at the SEC, and I'm saying they're the top dogs. And I know that there's some Big 12 fans out there that are like, aha, ACC, you're probably next, and the ACC is where it's at. If I'm the Big 12, I'm looking at the ACC like, look, you may be next, but if you go, who you think is next? There should be more partnerships between the Big 12 and the ACC. And there's schools that can help make that happen with their long-time schedules, including Cincinnati and West Virginia, who Pitt will play now in back-to-back weeks.
Now, obviously, Pitt's going to have a new athletic director, but do you think that the rivalry between Pitt and West Virginia will be in jeopardy? Like, could a new person come in and say, I don't want to be a part of this game? Or is there just too much history, too much willingness from both sides, both programs, especially the coaches, to say, we're going to play this game?
I'd be shocked. I mean,
yeah,
that'd be an athletic director coming in and saying, I don't like money. I don't like excitement. I don't want fanfare. Yeah, I want it to be quiet and boring. And no, I think whoever comes in, Pitt's they're going to have, I think whoever gets this job is going to understand what makes college athletics amazing. They're going to do their best to put Pitt in the center of that as many times as they can. And that means getting them in there against West Virginia, getting something with Penn State if possible. And what I really think is bring back the city game against Duquesne.
Yes, 100%. Just got to get everybody on board. Real quick before we wrap it up, and I appreciate you hopping on. Obviously, you cover the Steelers too for the PG, and you've got a great podcast, the Locked On Steelers podcast. Steelers are 1-0, lone team in the AFC North to be 1-0. Chris Boswell could run for mayor and probably win. That guy had one hell of a performance. Any concerns, though? I mean, the offense obviously didn't punch it in the end zone, but Calvin Austin said after the game, a lot of that was just based off of, maybe guys not being in the right spots. Do you put some stock into that, or do you think that there might be a little bit more concern about the Steelers offense, even though it's only week one?
There's always concern. I mean, listen, the Steelers offense, nothing about the Steelers offense has bought itself any currency to say, hey, you should have confidence that this is going to work out long-term, because it hasn't for several years now. I mean, dating back to 2020 was the last time we even saw the semblance of a real offense with the Steelers. However, I do think that there was a foundation laid for, hey, you can make this work even when you're being ultra conservative and a team knows what you're trying to do. Even with one wide receiver that is the real target, even when you're not using that tight end, you just paid a whole lot of money to several times throughout a game. You can make plays. You can move the ball. You can possess the football. Yes, they didn't get in the end zone, and they had to resort to 6 field goals. But guess what, Jack? They also won time of possession by almost 10 whole minutes. That's what they wanted to do. And you know what happens when you win time of possession by 10 whole minutes? TJ Watt's fresh at the end of the game to make plays like he did to close out the game, which is something that really has not happened for the Steelers since 2020, 2018, 2017. And you think about it, those weren't TJ Watt's best years even. So that's where I think this Steelers team, if this was the foundation, the floor of this offense was, hey, limit your turnovers, win third downs about close to 50% of the time, and eventually you'll start to add touchdowns, you'll start to add more positives there. That's a pretty good place to be starting from. It's better than where you've been. And if you're doing that while keeping the time possession, while winning on third down, sustaining drives, you're going to make that defense on that other side fresher, more aggressive. And then if you give them, say, a 10-point lead ever, a 14-point lead ever, they can, and it's the fourth quarter, they could pin their ears back, create more turnovers, be more aggressive. I think that there's certainly space to grow for this team. Are there concerns? Absolutely. They got to prove it. They got to go out and they got to put points on the board as an offense before we can say Arthur Smith's, fixing everything and he's in the right direction. But I think that we have seen there is reason to believe the foundational pieces are there for the Steelers to make that steps throughout this season.
Real quick before I let you go, in Denver week 2, you think it'll be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
All depends on Russell's health. It's been very clear. Russell Wilson, when he got hurt, he came out and in training camp when he first hurt his calf and it was announced that that's what's going on there. He came out and said, if it was a game to play right now, I would play right now. That would be that. And then time went on. Justin Fields played the regular season, the preseason games. Russell Wilson came back. He played the preseason. And then week 1 gets here, he re-injures it, and then he doesn't play in it. That tells me the Steelers are being very cautious. I think that they're going to continue to be cautious because I think that they like what Russ can do. I also think that they kind of want to see if Justin Fields can grow a little bit because he's younger and he has more potential simply because of his age, to be the future. So I will say if both are healthy, Russell Wilson starts next week. But if Russell Wilson is even 75%, I think they'll put in Justin Fields.
Christopher Carter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He covers Pitt, covers the Steelers. He's got the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris, you're the man. I appreciate you hopping on with us for this one, and we'll do it again soon, man. I'll see you on Saturday at the Brawl, too. It'll be a good one.
Yes, you will, Jack. Thanks for having me.